My name is Cesar de la Fuente. I'm a presidential associate professor at University of Pennsylvania. And I've been a scientist for my whole life since I was a kid. The really cool thing about research and about being a scientist is that you get to do that forever for your whole life. You get to just continue asking questions and coming up with ideas and then testing them in the lab. So you actually can test all your new ideas and see if they're correct or incorrect, and you can literally push the boundaries of science and of knowledge. And I think there's nothing more exciting than that. So
Yeah, okay. And then how did you get interested in research in the first place?
yeah, I think when I was doing my undergrad, I think I started doing some lab courses, like more practical courses, and that's when I was exposed for the first time to research, to doing things with my hands and doing experiments with my hands. And I became really, really excited about that. And I remember in one of my courses, we grew bacteria, and I saw how quickly they grew and how amazing it was to watch them grow at such incredible speed. And then I also learned I remember we synthesized aspirin. And so I remember like synthesizing this sort of drugs, right? And using chemistry. And so that also taught me about the magic nature of chemistry, that you can do a lot of things with it. So I think those were my first sort of experiences with research, and it has been a constant in my whole life. I just got hooked with it, and I've continued to do research. It's really a great way to test ideas that people have not had before. It's really exciting when we find something that nobody else has found out before in the history of humankind, right? And so that's sort of the thrill of discovery. I really think there's nothing like it.
Yeah, okay. And then in terms understandable to a high schooler, could you give me a quick overview of your research?
Yeah, sure. So what we do, we try to teach computers how to create new antibiotics. So antibiotics are the medicines that we take when we're sick with a bacterial infection. It's really important to come up with new ones because the ones that we have don't work. And so more and more, what we're seeing is patients coming into the hospitals with infections that we cannot treat. So those patients are killed as a consequence of these infections. And so we're trying to really accelerate the process of discovering new antibiotics by using AI and computers. Yeah, so that's what we do. We really, in my lab, we have this collaboration between machines and human scientists. So I think that's sort of the future of research. I think it's going to be more and more this tight collaboration between sort of human intelligence and the power of machines.
That's really interesting. I never knew that you could use AI to work on antibiotics.
Yeah, you can use AI to come up with new medicines or potential therapeutics. So it's a very exciting area. And what AI has enabled is that you can really accelerate discovery rates. Like what used to take many years, now we can do in a few hours on the computer.
Yeah, that's so cool. And then what were some of your most significant findings or publications?
Well, we have a lot of them, but I would say, let's see, recently we've developed AI models that can mine all of biology. So they can mine all of biology digitally, so on the computers, information from genomes, which are all the genetic code that encodes different organisms, including humans. So we've developed AI models that can search through all that biological data and identify new antibiotics very, very quickly. We've done that with present day organisms like humans, like ourselves, but we've also done that with ancient biological samples like Neanderthals or woolly mammoths. So we've been able to uncover novel antibiotics in a lot of creatures from the past, like woolly mammoths, ancient elephants, ancient penguins, and many, many other organisms that used to exist at one point on Earth, but disappear throughout the process of evolution. So I think that has been a really exciting area of research that we've done.
Yeah, okay. And then what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in research and how did you overcome those?
I mean, there are always challenges, right? The thing about research is that most experiments that we do not work. And so you have to have this mindset that, okay, if something doesn't work, that's okay because it means that you're still learning, right? And so we try to have this mindset that regardless of whether things work or don't work as anticipated, that's always a good thing because we're growing how we understand the world and how we understand biology. So we've had many of those where the experiment don't work doesn't work as expected, and then we have to pivot our thinking. But again, that's just the process of scientific pursuit, and research is It's all about pivoting the way you think, and it's all sort of based on the data that you collect in your experiments. There's many challenges along the way, but they all build up to continue constructing your understanding of the world.
Yeah, okay. And then what do you enjoy most about research?
I love working with smart people that come to my lab from all around the world. They all think differently about science and about biology, and I get to learn a lot from them. So really working alongside side them and brainstorming and coming up with new ideas is really probably my favorite part of the job.
Okay. And then which person or mentor in your field has made the biggest impact on you?
Let's see, I've had several mentors over time. Honestly, both colleagues in my lab, but also, other mentors in the field that have supported me at different moments. I think it's important to have a guiding voice to help you make decisions in critical points of your career. So it's always good to try to find somebody that you get along as well and can guide you both personally and professionally.
And then were there any like pivotal moments in your research career that made you change topics or want to pursue a certain topic?
We've incorporated new technologies, so AI, right? We've been working on AI for over a decade. So that was sort of this realization that AI could be really transformative in our ability to design and discover new antibiotics back in the day. And so we sort of incorporated that into the sort of technologies that we were working on. We've reshaped a lot of our thinking on the types of ideas and research that we conduct, and we've also incorporated a lot of new technologies. And that's one example. Also, generating new data sets, that's another example. So it's really, research is really a way to do lifelong learning. Yeah, you always get to learn new stuff, incorporate new ideas from other fields, and continue just growing intellectually.
Yeah, okay. And then like where do you see your research field expanding to? So like what are some interesting topics that can be further explored within the next like 5 to 10 years?
I mean, my hope is that hopefully we take some of the antibiotics that we've discovered all the way to clinical trials. We're still a bit far from that, but that would be a dream come true. And doing that at like at digital speed, like which is what we're doing now. Like I mentioned, we can in a few hours discover antibiotics that used to take many years to discover with traditional methods, right? Because we're doing everything on the computer. And so I think, that acceleration of discovery is already a reality. And in the coming years, hopefully we can transition some of these molecules that we've discovered to clinical trials.
And then moving on to questions geared more towards high schoolers, how did you find your passion for research and how would you suggest a high schooler try to find their own passion in research?
I think it's a matter of trying things, right? Like I wasn't sure whether I was going to like research. I've always liked thinking and being intellectually stimulated, so I knew that. And I've always been fascinated by biology. I've always thought that biology is like really complex, and so there must be ways of tackling it by learning different concepts from chemistry and from maths and from physics. But I just tried it. I tried it out. That's what I did. I so basically seek opportunities where you can try out new things to see what you actually like. Because when you're in high school, you're still very much learning about who you are and how your values and how what you like aligns with what you want to do for your, the next 10, 15 years or something like that, right? So there's a lot that you don't know, basically. Yeah, I think I would encourage you and your colleagues and your classmates to just try things, right? And if you think you might like research, try it out, see if you actually like it, right?
And then like what kind of skills can high schoolers develop even if they don't have access to a lab or any of like the fancy materials that you guys have?
I would say there's a lot of really good resources online on YouTube or Coursera. There's a lot of free courses there, or even just like reading books. So there's really a lot available that wasn't available when I was a kid necessarily. So and it's all for free. And so I would, encourage people to look on the internet and try to like search for the fields or potential fields or areas of research that you might be interested in and try to learn as much as possible from that. That's what I would say. There's a lot of resources out there, maybe too many, maybe that's the problem nowadays. There's too much stuff, so it's hard to filter what's great versus what's not so great, but I would just say, follow your curiosity basically.
Yeah, okay. And then what traits do you think define a great researcher in their field and what type of like personality traits or character traits would you look for in a potential lab member?
I think that's a great question. So typically we look for people that are very sort of curious. So curiosity, self-driven people that, they really want to like walk through walls to try to improve the world, change the world through research and science. We always look for team players because a lot of the projects that we do are in teams, right? Because we have each project requires a lot of expertise from different fields, and so we typically put teams together that in order to bring together all that expertise. People that work well in teams, and then people that are resilient, right? Like, because a lot of things don't work, and so you need to overcome challenges, and you need to be happy with sort of that resiliency that is required and that grit that is required, that is associated with science and really any pursuit at the highest level of excellence. It's always going to require that resiliency. And so those are the kinds of things that we look for. And then honestly, just nice people that is nice to work with.
Okay, so really just like determination and then like your soft skills.
Yeah, I would say determination, wanting to learn. Like if something doesn't work, wanting to learn and trying to figure out, okay, and propose solutions, or having that initiative of like, oh, this didn't work, and I think this is why, and I think, this is what I propose as next steps. Having that initiative is critical. And then just being resilient, not get depressed when things don't work out, and just say, okay, this is fine, and I'm confident, and I'm going to be able to figure this out, right? With the help of the team and everyone, but just having that positivity in life and research as in general.
Yeah, okay. And then I'm sure that you get like a lot of different emails from like undergrads or high school students or just a bunch of people trying to like join your lab. But like, how do you pick someone out from like the crowd? So what makes them stand out like through just their email?
Typically, if people have read our work and they relate to what we do in their email, that shows that they've done some background research and spent some time actually, caring enough about what we do to be able to put it on an email. That's usually a good sign. And then just like not ChatGPT it, have your own voice on the writing of the email. It doesn't have to be super long, the email as well, because, I get like 200 emails a day, so or something like that. So it can be something short, but I've read some of your papers. I was really excited about this point or that other point, and I'm really passionate about these area of research. And do you happen to have any openings or any positions upcoming? So I think something, it doesn't have to be too long. Including your CV is always a good thing as an attachment, and then just having your own voice on the message.
Yeah, okay. And then just for our final question, what's some advice that you would give to a high schooler who's looking to go into research in your field?
I mean, I would say go for it. I mean, the future is so exciting, the future of research. There's so much to be discovered, and we need young minds and creative minds, and you guys are the future. So, go out and try things. And really, the future of research is yours. So, I can't wait to see what you and your classmates do in the future if you decide to do research in science.